The national grid collapsed once again on Wednesday, marking the 12th failure in 2024 and resulting in a nationwide blackout. Data obtained from the Nigerian Systems Operators portal revealed that the grid recorded 0 megawatts as of 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Confirming the collapse on its X page, the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company reported that the system failure occurred at 1:33 p.m. Similarly, Friday, Adekole, head of corporate communications at Jos Electricity Distribution Company, stated on Facebook that the outage affected all feeders. This year, Nigerians experienced the first national grid collapse on 4th of February. Subsequent collapses occurred on 28th March, 15th April, 6th July, and 5th August. Further blackouts were recorded on 14th October, 12th of October, and 19th of October. The grid also failed on 6 November, followed by another collapse just 72 hours later. And now we're being joined by Dr. Idowu Oyebanjo, Managing Director of Idfon Power Energy Engineering Consultants. Thank you very much for joining us. Good afternoon to you and welcome. I'm hoping that your device is not on mute. If you could please check and make sure that it's not on mute. Now, so let's start by asking 12th national grid collapse in 12 months. So as an energy expert, what are the primary technical factors contributing to the frequent collapse of Nigeria's national power grid? And also, how can they be addressed?
Just confirm that you can hear me, please.
Loud and clear.
All right. Yeah, the most significant technical challenges for the power system all boil down to meritocracy. And one of them is lack of system protection. So system protection is supposed to isolate any faulty part of the network and keep the rest of the system functional. But protection systems in the Nigerian electricity supply industry is next to zero. So lack of adequate protection is a technical reason why we're having grid collapse. It's one of the most fundamental reasons for grid collapse in Nigeria. And because it's so technical, it's only those who can afford to do it that can do it and help us out. That's one. The second technical reason is lack of system planning. System planning means that projects that are done in the Nigerian electricity supply industry will be based on studies that show that those projects are necessary. What you have had over 20 years is a situation whereby a minister or a governor or a senator or House of Rep member or even a staff of the utility company will say, well, you bring this substation into my place, bring this transformer into my place, even whether there is load there or not. And such attitude, such actions cause grid collapse because of what we call the Ferranti effect. The Ferranti effect means that if a place has little or no load and you pick a lump of impedance, which a transformer is, into that place, you get what we call voltage rise. And when this voltage rises beyond the insulation, peak insulation value for protection for the equipment, it will damage the equipment, and thus you will have broken your network yourself just because of not doing proper system planning. Another technical thing that's responsible for where we are now is the lack of coordination in the project implementation in the power sector. You have a situation where there is a misalignment between the capacities that we can generate, 13,900 or so, transmit 5,500, and distribute a battery 3,500. So this huge difference between what can be generated and what can be transmitted or distributed is a misnomer. And it's happening because there is no proper coordination of the investment in the power sector.
So I hear you, and if I hear you correctly, you're saying that the lack of electricity that we might be facing also might be caused by the distribution and transmission of electricity as well. Because if you're saying that in specific places, if you are overproducing, then you are also putting the consumers at risk. Am I correct?
Yes, please. So
Okay,
there
so
is needed
how can we
investment
solve,
in transmission.
how can the government solve these issues then if generation is not a problem according to what you're saying, or it might be the problem, but then there's generation and then there's transmission and we have issues on both ends. So how can the government fix this?
So the quantum of generation is absolutely not the problem. You are right in in getting that out of what I've said, because we have a huge capacity of generation that cannot be evacuated through the transmission and distribution system. So what do? You start to invest in the transmission and distribution system, and this will cost a lot of money. You invest in your transmission systems, raise their capacities, let them come near 13,000 megawatts, which you have as your generation capacity. So from 5,500, make sure the transmission system comes to about 11,000 megawatts. And make sure that the distribution system is able to carry about 13 megawatts, so that you can push a lot of power to consumers. But that's not all. Set up a presidential task force on power, which is actually policy number 9 of the renewed agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where on policy number 9 it says that within the first 100 days, there shall be established a presidential advisory task force on power, which will do the coordination of many things I have talked about, including the SCADA system, MDMS, the metering, and so on. But they have not done it. It's over 365 days.
Dr. Oyebanjo, now, when it comes to the role of management and investment, like you have just said, to help prevent grid collapse, are we going to be investing in the structure that already exists that we're having issues with, or are you advising the governments to overhaul?
Overall. Those dilapidated systems cannot do much. For example, we do not have a SCADA system since 1988. That's about 36 years. Nigeria has been trying to do a supervisory control and data acquisition system. We call it SCADA. SCADA is a management system that will help to have better visibility of the network, so that before the grid collapses, they will have seen what's happening in what area of Nigeria, and then they can, if they have good protection, restrict the faults to that area so that it will prevent grid collapse. But they've been chopping the money, and so far we have not been able to have that one for over 36 years now. We hear that it will come alive next year. We are just waiting. We've been hearing this for years. So that's one example of grid management. Another one is this country has no data of power system. So centralized data management system, we have been pushing them to do it. It's a must for any system to work. And they don't have it in Nigeria, so it's not going to work. You need data. You often hear data is life. So if there's no data of transformers, data of substations, data of lines and consumers and everything, you cannot possibly have a functional power system. Metering, that's another investment aspect that's lacking. You have to have meters for all consumers. Estimated darkness is a misnomer. You cannot be billing people for estimated darkness. You will cause losses. They will steal electricity. The electricity abstraction will become more. But if you meter all consumers, each person will try to consume what they can afford by means of investing in energy efficiency measures and demand side management. So these are some of the things that governments can do to manage the system better.
While we're still talking about energy here, Nigeria has been on very many international forums talking about renewable energy. Now, if we are to use renewable energy or integrate renewable energy into what we have, would this solve the problem in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The whole of Africa is blessed with renewable energy systems, of course, the solar system, but we've never had the opportunity of using them because of the people we have had in charge of Africa in the last 40, 50 years. I remember in my undergraduate days at the University of Lagos, we were taught how to begin a solar panel, but that's it. They've been teaching the same course for over 20 years before my time. But nobody is sponsoring those academics in pursuing how to improve silicon wafers as well as all those things that we use to make solar panels. But that where we are now, we are very behind in technology. We don't have the know-how, so we depend on others, the Western world, to provide that for us. Shameful, because the Western world is coming to Africa. Just imagine United Kingdom. They have connected a line now from the Sahara Desert, piping, let me use that word, the sun from there into their cold region of United Kingdom. So because they use that one now to generate electricity and they are living fine with the electricity from Africa, but those who are in Africa are not able to tap that same electricity. So such is the problem we have, the scale of problem we have. Another thing is we have a lot of waste in Africa. In Nigeria, we have a lot of waste. Collect this waste. All this waste on the road causing problem on the environment. You take them and then incinerate them and get electricity out of that process. And a lot more. We have wind, we have hydro, a lot of water in the northern region, and every state in Nigeria has got water. We have tidal barrages. If you go to the Lagos end of the beach, you see the Atlantic Ocean, you will see waves coming, flying. This can be used to generate electricity, landfill gas, as well as other waste to power. All these things are going to be integrated into a power system that will become stable and have less grid collapse. Ultimately, you have to decentralize that power system, the Nigerian power system. Decentralization means that you follow the Electricity Act that says, look, every state is supposed to have its own state electricity market. And then if they have surplus in the state, they will sell to this existing national grid. And you will curtail a lot of problems if you do that, because
Okay.
imagine you have a problem. If you break it into manageable parts, you will succeed in looking after them. But if you connect them all together, you will just be struggling.
A very nice and strategic way to put it. Thank you very much, Dr. Idowu Oyebanjo, Managing Director of Idfon Power Engineering Consultants. Thank you once again for joining us on the news.